I am so happy. I have not seen my friend here for a long time, so I'm just happy to see him, number one, and you guys have no idea. We are so privileged to have him. So our speaker today is Dr. Tim Crowley, a nationally recognized psychologist, leadership expert, and keynote speaker. He's inspired over 1.5 million people with his uplifting, story-filled talks. Tim was born the 11th of 13 children in a big Catholic family in a small town, Iowa, and for the past 40 years, he's called Missouri home. He's a dad, a loyal friend, yes, and most importantly, a very proud grandpa to Stella.
Go Stella!
Woo! Grandkids. He lives by the motto, enjoy life. This is not a dress rehearsal. And he believes we're all here for a reason, a purpose, and a mission. His passion is helping others build meaningful lives, stay connected, and stand for something bigger than themselves. We are so privileged and blessed to have him here today. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tim Crowley.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm going to do something I rarely do, but I got to expand a little bit on that 11 of 13 kids. That sounds like a big family, right? Guess what? I have 6 sisters, 6 brothers. I am the 11 of 13, but we were an average-sized Catholic family. There was one family that had 17 children and another one that had 22, so we were just your average size. Anyway, we're going to dive right into this. I'm going to ask you to do something. Right now, you need to make sure there's nothing in your hands. And what I ask you to do is just bring your very best to it. So make sure there's nothing in your hands. Ready, set, just give me one clap. That was lame. When I say one clap, I want one clap. Give me one clap. Boom. Give me 2. Give me 3. Every time my hands cross, I want you to clap. Ready, set. Aha! When my hands cross, clap. And then we're going to do this. The faster I go, the louder we get. The slower I go, then we get quieter. Ready, set. And with that, I want to say, make sure I get this light on here. Growing up in that big family, my mom always taught us anytime we went out in public, anytime we went out in our front yard, we went out in our backyard, but anytime anybody ever did something nice, to always express thank you. So for all the people who made this day happen, Shelby and all of her cohorts, give them another round of applause. And if you really had fun, do that too. Let them hear it. Woo! A lot of work goes into making this happen, and they make it seem seamless. So make sure your hands are empty. Take your right hand, stick it up in the air as tall as you can. And now let's put your birthday right here. My birthday is November 9th, 1958. That's on your birthday's on the end of your hand. Now take your hand and spread it to the right. Now you're going to take your other hand. You're going to lift it up as far as you can. Be careful with this one. I want you to stretch it out as far as you can, because this is the day you kick the bucket, sell the farm, you leave this life. This is the day you go to heaven. So what you have in front of you, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, this is your lifeline. So let's see it. Keep it there. Now I'm going to play along with me. So take off all the years you've lived. So here's my lifeline. I'm going to be 67. I got to check off 67 years. Click off all the years that you have lived. By the way, Shelby said, make this positive. I don't know how it's headed. And so just take off that and then freeze wherever you are. Whatever your age is, then you'll just freeze. But we're not done. Take off another third, because we're supposed to be getting 8 hours of sleep a night, which most of us don't get. Take off another third of what you have left. And now what I want you to do is take that front and center and just take a good look at it. Take a good look at this. This is your life, gentlemen and women. This is like all you got. Go ahead and drop it. Look at the slide behind me or in front of you, either way. Here's my question to you. What does purpose, positivity, and connection, those 3 things, have to do with making whatever time we got left a really good life? And I'm looking for a one-word answer, and it begins with the letter E. What does who said it? You got it right away. Everything. So I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm here as more of a professional reminder. I don't think life is what happens to us. It's what we do with us. It's what we do with it. We're all much stronger than what we know. How many of you would be willing to step outside of your comfort zone in the next 20 minutes if you could end up leaving here laughing so hard that you might share some food, or that you would meet somebody new, or that you'd have a great conversation? If you could leave here knowing how to make the very best of this, raise your hand if you'd be willing to just get out of your, and keep your hands up. This is called peer pressure right now. What I'm doing, I'm doing what my mom taught us. She always gave us an invitation to create something better. So here's what I want you to do. And it's going to get kind of crazy for a little while. But by the way, can you imagine how much noise 13 children made? So if my mom could do this, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. When I say go, I'm going to ask you to do something that oftentimes, and I don't care what age you are, people still struggle with. Where you're sitting, where I'm standing, I have a circle around me. You have a circle around you. It's called our comfort zone. There's nothing wrong with staying in this, but if we stay in this, we can get stuck. Raise your hand if you, or if you know anybody ever in their life stayed in a job, a position, a career, a relationship longer than what it was good for them. Raise your hand if that's ever happened. So we know outside this comfort zone. What's outside the comfort zone? It's an invitation for the good stuff. It's where opportunities lie. It's really where the great things lie. So how many would be willing to step outside of that again for some fun? Raise your hand, put them up. When I say go, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get a partner, and I want it just to be somebody that you've never had a conversation with prior to coming today. And if possible, make sure they're not at your table. And so you can get up and move around. And if you have a hard time moving around, just say, I'm here, come find me, and somebody will find you. You have 10 seconds to find your partner. Ready, set, go. We got 9 seconds left, 8 seconds. Raise your hand if you want somebody to come towards you. You can raise your hand and say, come find me. Here I am. Look at this, we're connecting. So you can't do this in groups of 3, and you can't do this by yourself. Do your best to find a partner. Do your very best to find a partner. And go, right now, where you're at, just go ahead and freeze. Go ahead and freeze. Let me grab your attention. Everybody, I'm going to ask you to pause. By the way, in a moment, I'm going to give you instructions to talk. It's going to get really loud in here. And it's going to be fun. I'm going to ask you to pause. There is no way you will hear me. So if anybody sees me do this in the next 5 minutes, if I put my hand up and actually put 2 or 3 fingers here, this is what the Girl Scouts do to get people to be quiet. If you see somebody's hand go up like this, it just means pause, to be silent. So we're all going to be talking. Hand goes up, we're just going to be silent, right? So right now, I'm going to play around with you a little bit. It works best if everybody has a partner. I see some people by themselves. I see some people in groups of 3. This really works best. I'm going to encourage you to find a partner. Anybody need a partner? Raise your hand. Trust me, who needs a partner? Anybody need a partner? So right now, between you and your partner, and I'll let you guys be partners, between you and your partner, you have a very important decision to make. It's going to be the most important decision you've made all day. Without knowing what I'm going to ask you to do, one of you is going to have to start. Right now, this is what you're going to decide. Who's going to go first? You decide in any way who's going to go first. Either you are or your partner is, and you can volunteer somebody or you can volunteer yourself. Decide who's going first. Here we go really quick. Everybody that is going first, I want you to be proud and loud. Put your hand high in the air. Look around this room. Look at all these leaders. Look at all these people who said, I got this. Look at all the people who lost at rock, papers, and scissors. Here you go. Keep your hand up. This is what I want you to do. Here's the next instruction. If your hand is up, I want you to put it down. You're not going first. You're going second. By the way, there's a lot of age in here and there's a lot of wisdom in here. How many of you certainly know that life does not go as planned? And here from my mom and from myself is just a gentle reminder, when life doesn't go the way we want, when life doesn't go as planned, we don't have to get mean, we don't have to get ugly, we don't have to get into a meltdown. So the person that was going to go first, where are you again? You actually are going to go first, but you're not going to go first with speaking, you're going to go first with listening. By the way, most of you know this, listening is a dying art these days. Stephen Covey says the greatest leaders, they live and lead by what he calls the 80-20 rule of effective communication. The best leaders, the best communicators, they listen 80%. Watch this. Raise your hand if you've ever had a conversation and you could tell the person wasn't listening to you. Look at that. By the way, what happens to you when they're doing this or they're doing this instead of listening to you? How does that impact you? How does it make you feel? Not important. PO'd. Mad. What's the likelihood you're going to circle back to that person anytime soon? Not anytime soon. Now raise your hand if you've had that opposite experience, where you had a conversation and somebody was doing what so many of you are doing right now. You're making eye contact. You're giving minimal encouragements. Raise your hand if you can think of a time when you were really heard and seen and valued. So I'm just reminding you, when you leave here today, if you want to live a better life, if you want to stand taller, you want to make people's lives better, boy, listen more. So many people today feel isolated, they feel alone, they feel like they're not seen, they're not heard, they're not valued, that they don't mean anything. And all it takes is this. Close this, open these, and keep this open. And I know that you all know this. I'm just here to remind you. So the person that's going to go first speaking, where are you? You're the person who didn't put your hand up. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this game. It's called High-Low. I've been doing it for about 20 years. It is a fun game. But watch what happens in just 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, how you're going to get to know the person that you're having a conversation with. There's 2 rounds to it. So the very first round, so I'm just going to use Shell because I know her. So if the first round would be, you're both going to share a high. And I could say from this morning, from the last week, the last month, the last year. By the way, I hope within the last year we've all had at least one high. So Shelby would share a high, and then I would share a high. But we don't quit there. Then there's the second round, and the second round is you're going to share a low. By the way, lows happen all the time, and it's important that people listen to us and hear us, because when we can share our lows, that way we don't keep stuff in here and we don't keep it in here. Nobody gets out of life without lows. By the way, raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. So there's 2 rounds. You're both going to share a high. You're both going to share a low. You're going to we're going to do this a little bit quicker. You got about 3 minutes to have all those conversations done. Ready, set, go. Go ahead and pause. By the way, raise your hand if you just enjoyed that conversation. By the way, clap if you just enjoyed that conversation. So this generation here, we know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But when we talk about things that help people to live happier and healthier, connection is one of the most powerful things that we can have. And yet today, there's way too many of us in this room, we just go through it alone. And we are more disconnected now than we've ever been. Anybody know a man by the name of Viktor Frankl? Viktor Frankl survived a concentration camp. By the way, you don't go into that, you don't volunteer for that. He actually had a passport. His wife was pregnant with their unborn child. They could have left Vienna, but they did not leave because they weren't going to leave his parents behind. So his mother, his father, his brother, his wife with their unborn baby, himself, they all go into this concentration camp. 4.5 years later, he's the only one that survived. And later, if you Google him, whatever that means to you, you will see a human being that looks like a skeleton. But he wrote a book, and the book is called Man's Search for Meaning. And in that book, there's a line that says this, and listen to this: no matter the situation, no matter the circumstances, every human being, we all have one last freedom. We all have one last choice. You know what that is? It's to choose our attitude. Does it matter how we show up? So whatever people give you in life, continue to show up, to be positive and lift other people up. So let me ask you a question. With the person that you just had this conversation with, for the most part, I've never met Josh before. This was our first conversation. How many of you, next time you see this person, because of this conversation, raise your hand if most likely you'll have a different conversation with them? Now let me ask you another one. Anybody use cell phones in here? Yeah, some of you are probably pros at it, right? So let's imagine this. 10 days go by, 20 days go by, 30 days go by, are you with me? And all of a sudden you get a text from the person that you just had this conversation with, and they asked you one thing. It's the one thing that none of us in this room are good at, none of us like to do, and we all need practice. They asked you for one thing. You know what that is? They asked you for help. What would you do, and when would you do it? What would you do? You would help them, and you'd probably do it right away. So I'm not here to tell you anything, but boy, as we continue to stand tall and grow older, boy, make sure that connection is part of your daily life. Seek it out, listen to people, connect to people. My mom was a very shy person, but she was one of the best connectors I ever knew. She could start conversations, and then she would just let them roll. She never left somebody without learning something about them. Most of my life, I'm a therapist. It takes years and years to change people, and I don't know if I've ever changed a person. I've got 8 minutes left. Let's see what we can do. So I'm not here to teach you anything, but I am here to remind you of a few things. How many of you certainly know that humor is good for us? Humor is good for the soul. So how many of you have ever had embarrassing moments in life? So if you want humor, make sure that you're sharing those embarrassing moments. Don't keep those stories to yourself. How many of you just have had funny stories in your family or at work or with friends or with neighbors that when it could have been a year ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but if you think about it, you start laughing hysterically now. So I'm just going to remind you of a couple stories from my own life that I'll share a couple. One comes from what I call her Grandma Rinks, but all my original grandparents were deceased before I was born. But when we moved to Grettinger, Iowa, my best friend, his family became like a second family. So all of a sudden, I got a grandma. I got Grandma Dora. And she was a gritty woman. She was strong. She never let anything get her down. She actually had a stroke, but boy, she could still get around, and she wasn't going to let that stop her. Well, now we're sitting around the Christmas table. It's dinner time, and Shirley Rinks would always just make a beautiful table. And so Grandma was somewhat shy. And so all of a sudden at Christmas dinner, this is what she says: I have something to share with you. It's really been a bother. It's been rather painful. And she said, you know how I had that stroke and I didn't let it slow me down? Something terrible happened. I have the worst case of hemorrhoids I've ever had in my life. So this comes from a very shy woman who later in life said, I'm just going to let it go. And she told us all that. She said, but you know me, I know how to take care of things. I headed to the bathroom. I got the preparation H. I put it on, only discovered I put icy hot on my hemorrhoids. She said, I have not moved that fast since I was 16. How about for Grandma Rinks? So how many of you have stories? Make sure that you're sharing those stories with people. My son is 37. He'll be 38 in November. This story happened here in St. Joe. I won't tell you the street. I'll keep that part innocent. It was about 2:30 in the morning, and one of the worst things a young parent could ever have happened in our home. It's about 2:30, I'm sleeping in bed, and I hear my son's voice go, and I stand up. I look up first, and there's an intruder. There's a burglar standing right beside me. He had just left my son's room. There was another one out in another part of the house. I could hear him knocking things around. I grew up Catholic. If you ever cussed, you got soap in your mouth. I started screaming and yelling, and I made up so many cuss words in about 20 different languages, scared both guys out. One guy went out the front door. One guy goes out the back door. The police come, the police leave. I finally get back into my son's room, and I said, Nick, are you okay? Did you get scared? And he looked at me. He's like 2.5, and he's kneeling on his bed. And he looked at me really brave and said, no, Dad, I did not get scared. I did not get scared at all. He said, but Daddy, my teeth got scared. He said, they started shaking and they won't stop. And then he did this. He did his, oh! And he just could not stop that. So that was 20-some years ago. I have as much joy that way. So when you've had those embarrassing moments, those funny stories, boy, make sure that you take them and use them and share them. So I'm down to about, is it 2 minutes? Oh, I got 4 minutes. Good. How many of you certainly know that none of us in this room have become the people we are without the help of other people? You know that. How many of you can think of people who contributed to your life, and because of them, you're a better man or woman, you're a better person? And hopefully you have several people like that. My mom for sure was one of those people. But there's a woman, and I'll bet some of you in this, somebody's gonna know her. So I took a job at Missouri Western many years ago. I was gonna do it for a year, stayed almost 20, because I just loved working with students. But I worked with an amazing woman who was the strongest leader I think I've ever met in my life. She never met a stranger. You could not leave her presence without her learning your name, something about you. And the next time she would see you, that's where you'd start the conversation off. She literally was dying of cancer, did not have to come to work, and yet she came to work every day. Imagine that. She'd lost all this weight. She was thin as could be, but she was bringing the most joy into the workplace. Unfortunately, she passed. Her name was Edith Brown. Anybody know Edith Brown from Missouri Western? Edith Brown was, it's 20, 30 years later, and I still don't have enough words to talk about that woman. So anyway, long story short, I go to her funeral an hour and a half early because I just wanted some time to be with her. You understand what I'm talking about? I wanted to say my goodbyes. I pull in the parking lot, there's no place to park. I was late, an hour and a half early. I walk into the church, it's standing room only. Imagine that. One person. Think of all the impact, influence, and contribution because she did those 3 things. She always knew her purpose, she was positive, and she was a connector. Later, after the big service was over, there was a handful of us, her family, and those co-workers out at the cemetery, and the vice president of the university said this about her, and this is where I'll begin to close with you as just a reminder from Edith's life. First of all, she said, life is not what happens to us, it's what we do with it. There's not a person in here who hasn't had bad stuff, unfair stuff. It's what we do with it. Listen to this. If no one's ever told you, you are stronger than anything that ever happened to you. My mom always taught us growing up, I guess we were welfare kids. I guess we were poor, but we were rich in love. She always kept us fed, pancakes and eggs and bacon, but she fed us even more with love. Edith Brown was that same kind of person. It's how we leave people that's what creates our legacy. And so the vice president of the university asked us to do this, and I'll ask you to do the same. Right now, imagine a lake or a pond on a day where that water is just smooth as glass. Can you see that lake, that water just calm as be? If you were to take a rock and throw that rock out into the water, when that rock hits the water, what's it create? It creates ripples. And he said this, Edith is the ripples. She's the ripples in our life. But you know what? Edith wasn't the ripple, she was the rock. And each and every one of you and I, we are the rocks. We get to decide what ripples that we share with the world. I just want to say this in closing because I want to honor the time. Thank you for being who you are. Leave this room with those 3 things, top of your mind, your purpose. Be more positive, be more hopeful. You can't turn the news on today without we live in, fair to say, a negativity biased culture. But you know what? We need positivity, hope, and optimism more now than ever. Years ago, I did a talk like this. I got home. A couple weeks later, somebody sent me a postcard. Do you remember when we were younger and you would see the outlines of the United States and we had to memorize the capitals? I could never do it. My sister did it really easy. So did you know, if you look at the United States, in every state, there's a city or a town or a township called Hope. And this is what I want to leave you with. And this is what was on the postcard. wherever you go, may you always find hope. And I'm going to say this, wherever you go in life, may you always spread hope. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for all that you do. And I hope that the best of days are still ahead of you. And with that, I'm going to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Wait, actually, let's do this. This will be way more fun. Give me one clap. Give me two. Give me three. And this is for everybody in here. And know that without a doubt, you're making a big difference in the world. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to throw this to Shelby.